welcome to this deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be taking a look at the McKinsey way.
Yeah.
This book,
It's a good one.
yeah, it's written by a former consultant at McKinsey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, it pulls back the curtain on how they solve problems.
Right.
And I think a lot of people think, oh, McKinsey, that's just for consultants.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think there's something in here for anyone,
Yeah.
whether you're leading a team or working on a startup or just trying to figure out problems in your daily life.
Absolutely.
I think this book has a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Even if you're not planning to become a consultant,
Right.
just knowing how those guys think
Yeah.
can be so valuable.
Totally.
Because they're the ones who get brought in
Right.
to
Untangle the mess.
yeah, to solve the really hard problems.
Exactly. So let's get into it.
Okay.
So the book really emphasizes these three core attributes
Mm-hmm.
of their problem-solving approach.
Yes.
What are those and why are they so important?
Okay, so the three attributes are fact-based,
Okay.
structured, and hypothesis-driven.
Okay.
So fact-based means you're basing your decisions on data.
Right. Not your gut.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
have to have the evidence to back it up.
I like it.
And then structured.
Yeah.
It's basically about breaking down these huge problems into smaller pieces.
Right. So you don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like you don't want to boil the ocean.
Love that.
And then hypothesis-driven.
Okay.
It's basically starting with an educated guess and then using data and analysis
Approve.
to prove or disprove.
That's it. So you're not just
Right.
gathering data.
Exactly. You have a direction.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure something out.
Okay. I love that.
And so the book gives this example of this company that was having declining sales.
Mhm.
And instead of just freaking out, they actually looked at the data.
Yeah.
They analyzed sales by customer type.
Okay.
And then they found all these hidden insights
So-
that they never would have found if they hadn't taken that approach.
And they were able to turn things around.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the book also talks about this idea of an initial hypothesis.
Yes.
So it sounds like this is kind of like a key part of the process.
Yes.
It's almost like setting a compass bearing
Mm-hmm.
before you set out on a journey.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically giving yourself a direction
Yeah.
before you start.
Instead of just like wandering aimlessly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about having a starting point
Okay. Cool.
that you can then test and refine.
So this reminds me of another principle from the book that I found super interesting, the 80-20 rule.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that?
Sure. So the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle, states that roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes.
Okay.
So in business, that means focusing on the key drivers.
Okay. So it's about finding those pressure points where you can get the most impact.
Exactly. So the book has this example about this team who was analyzing the profitability of brokers
At a first.
in a financial firm. Yeah.
Okay.
And they found out that a small group of clients
Interesting.
were generating most of the profits.
So it's about finding that small group that's actually moving the needle.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I love that.
Yeah. And this is where that don't boil the ocean idea comes in.
Right. You can't do everything.
Right.
So you got to focus on what matters.
Exactly.
Okay. So to make sure that they're focusing on the right things, McKinsey uses this thing called the elevator test.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of this?
Of
I
course.
always picture
Being stuck in an elevator.
yeah, with some big executive,
Right.
and you have to pitch your idea
Yeah. In like 30 seconds.
before the doors open.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
Right?
And the book has this great story about this team who had been working on this project for like months.
Okay.
And they finally get in the elevator with the CEO.
And they have to summarize everything they've done in
Okay.
a 2-minute elevator ride.
That's so stressful.
I know.
But also such a good way to make sure that you really understand
right.
like what you're trying to say.
Yeah, it forces you to get to the point.
Yeah, cut out all the fluff
Exactly.
and just focus on what really matters.
Yeah.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
to make those points
Yeah.
even more impactful, McKinsey's really big on using visuals.
Yes. Especially charts.
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 Okay, but please tell me they don't use those 3D exploding pie charts.
No.
Okay.
They hate those.
I hate those.
They believe in simplicity.
Okay.
One message per chart, clearly labeled, and no unnecessary clutter.
So it's all about clarity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They even have this special chart called a waterfall chart.
A waterfall chart.
Yeah. It's basically a way to visualize quantitative flows.
Okay. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking about how consultants think and how they solve problems.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to point out that this stuff is useful even if you're not a consultant.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
these skills are transferable though,
Yeah.
to any field.
Totally. Whether you're in marketing,
Right.
engineering, healthcare, anything.
Like, these are valuable skills to have.
For sure.
So it's not just about the specific methods.
It's about the mindset,
Yeah.
the way they approach problems.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about the people side of things.
Okay.
Because it's not just about cold, hard analysis.
Mm-hmm.
It's about working effectively within a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear those McKinsey teams are pretty intense.
Oh, yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
But that comes from like a shared commitment to excellence.
Right.
You know, everyone's really driven to
Yeah.
do their best work.
So the book talks about assembling the right team,
Yes.
managing the hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
and fostering open communication.
That's all important.
And there's also this interesting point about making your boss look good.
Oh, yeah.
What's that about?
So it's not about like sucking up.
Okay.
It's more about understanding the dynamics of teamwork.
Okay.
So there's a story in the book about this associate who did a ton of work on this competitor analysis.
Okay.
But then when he presented it to the client, he made sure to give credit to his engagement manager.
So it's about understanding the chain of command.
Yeah, and making sure everyone gets the recognition they deserve.
Okay. So choosing the right team is important too.
Yeah.
So do they go for like raw intellectual horsepower
Well, it depends.
on the problem?
Yeah.
Right.
So for some problems, you want the smartest people in the room.
Right.
But for other problems, you might need people with specific skills.
Or experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the situation.
I got it.
And what's interesting is they say you should actually talk to the potential team members.
Oh, so not just look at their resumes.
Right. You need to get a sense of their personality and
Yeah.
how they work.
So it's like assembling a puzzle. You need all the pieces to fit together.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So now what about those clients that are,
Difficult.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. They call them liability client team members.
liability?
Yeah. The ones who are like uncooperative or unhelpful.
Now those are the worst.
Yeah. So ideally, you want to get them off the team,
Right.
but sometimes you can't.
So what do you do?
Well, the book has some strategies for working around them,
Okay.
like minimizing their impact while still getting the job done.
I guess you got to pick your battles.
Right.
Yeah.
And if all else fails, you can always escalate the issue.
What does that mean?
Basically going over their head to their boss
Okay.
and explaining how this person is hurting the project.
Yeah. Okay, so it's like a last resort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's necessary.
Okay, so navigating those team dynamics sounds like it's really important.
Yeah, it's a key part of the job.
And what about morale?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you're working those long hours?
That's important too.
So how do they keep people from burning out?
Well, communication is key.
Okay.
Making sure everyone understands the big picture and
Yeah.
giving people positive reinforcement. Like,
Yeah.
there's this story in the book about this consultant who was working on this really tough project,
Right.
and his engagement manager was really good about keeping him in the loop
Okay.
and making him feel valued.
I like that.
And that made a huge difference for him.
Yeah, because when you feel appreciated,
Mm,
it makes it easier to push through those tough times.
exactly.
Okay, I think this is a good place to pause for now.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part,
We have.
from the basic principles of the McKinsey way
Mm-hmm.
to the importance of teams and client relationships.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
in the next part, we're going to dive into how McKinsey packages and presents their solutions.
yes, we'll talk about presentations,
Yes.
internal communication.
All that good stuff.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
See you in part 2.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the McKinsey way.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about how these consultants think and how they solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
But even the most brilliant solution
Right.
is worthless if you can't communicate it.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about how McKinsey packages and presents their solutions
Okay.
and how they navigate all those tricky communication channels.
Yeah, that's where this next part of the book gets really interesting.
Okay, so let's start with presentations.
Okay.
We all know how painful a bad PowerPoint can be.
Mm-hmm.
So how does McKinsey avoid death by PowerPoint?
Well, they understand that a presentation isn't just about data.
Right.
It's about telling a story,
Yeah.
a compelling narrative.
Okay.
And just like they structure their analysis, they
Yeah.
structure their presentations.
Very carefully.
Yes. So
like
it's
that.
not just what you say.
But how you say it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So a typical McKinsey presentation follows a structure
Right.
that mirrors their problem-solving process.
Okay.
So they start by setting the stage. Okay.
Laying out the background and the problem.
Got it.
Then they go through their analysis, present their findings,
Okay.
and then finally their recommendations.
Which flow logically from the evidence.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's like building a case piece by piece.
Yeah,
And I'm guessing visuals are a big part of this.
absolutely.
Charts and graphs.
Especially charts.
Okay.
Because they can convey complex information.
In a way that's easy to understand.
Yes, and engaging.
Okay, and we talked about this before, but McKinsey's really big on keeping those charts simple.
Oh, yeah.
One message per chart.
Right.
Clearly labeled, no clutter.
Exactly.
Okay, so no data dumps.
No.
Got it.
You don't want to overwhelm the audience.
Okay, so now they also have this thing called pre-wiring.
Yes.
What is that?
So it's basically about talking to key people.
At the client.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before the big presentation.
Okay.
To get their feedback.
So you're not just springing it on them.
Right. You want to make sure everyone's on the same page.
And address any concerns they might have.
That makes sense.
And the book has this story about this team
Right.
who presented to a room full of executives, and this one director just went off.
Oh, no.
Because he hadn't been pre-wired.
That's so awkward.
I know.
It's like all that work wasted.
Yeah, it's a good lesson in the importance of pre-wiring.
So you don't want to be caught off guard.
Right.
So, okay, so pre-wiring is all about managing expectations.
Yeah.
And getting buy-in.
Absolutely.
Okay. And it's also about tailoring your message.
To different audiences.
Right.
You wouldn't present the same way to engineers as you would to the CEO.
Exactly. Okay, so beyond formal presentations, the book also talks about managing internal communications.
Yes.
So making sure everyone on the team
is in the loop.
Yeah.
That the information is flowing.
Yeah.
And that everyone's on the same page.
I like it.
So whether it's an email, a voicemail.
Or a team meeting.
Yeah.
Clear communication is key.
Exactly. The book emphasizes 3 things. Brevity.
Okay.
Thoroughness.
Got it.
And structure.
Okay, so no rambling emails.
No.
No confusing voicemails.
Correct.
Just clear, concise information.
Exactly. And remember, confidentiality is super important.
Yeah. McKinsey's known for their discretion.
Oh, yeah.
You won't catch them gossiping.
No way. They're very careful about protecting client information.
Makes sense.
There's even a story in the book about this consultant
Okay.
whose girlfriend worked for a rival firm.
Oh, no.
And she overheard him talking about a project.
Uh-oh.
Almost got him in trouble.
That's a close call.
Yeah.
So always assume someone's listening.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about selling solutions internally and externally. But what about actually putting them into practice?
Implementation.
Yeah, because it's one thing to have a great idea.
Right.
It's another thing to actually make it happen.
Exactly.
So how does McKinsey approach implementation?
Well, they say it shouldn't be an afterthought.
Okay.
It needs to be part of the process from the start.
Makes sense.
So they stress having a detailed plan with clear timelines, responsibilities, and accountability.
So it's not just about saying, we need to improve efficiency.
Right.
It's about breaking it down.
Into specific steps.
Assigning
Setting deadlines.
Exactly.
Okay, so making it actionable.
Yes.
I like it.
So there's this great example in the book about this project at a bank. And this manager, they called him Lothar.
Lothar.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was like this tough guy.
Okay.
Known for getting things done.
Okay.
And he used the McKinsey implementation plan to assign tasks very specifically.
Okay.
And he held these meetings where anyone who hadn't done their work had to explain why in front of everyone.
Talk about accountability.
Yeah, so people learned to meet their deadlines.
Yeah, I bet they did.
So it's important to have someone who can drive implementation.
Yeah, someone who can hold people accountable.
Okay, so it's not just about brains.
What about execution?
Yeah.
Making things happen.
I like it. So let's talk about client engagement.
Yes.
Because without client buy-in, nothing's going to happen. It's crucial.
That's how they're crucial.
So how do they make sure the client's on board?
Well, they emphasize involving the client in the process.
Okay.
So not just telling them what to do, but actually getting their input.
So it's a collaboration.
Exactly.
Not a dictatorship.
Right. So they might involve the client in the analysis or the brainstorming.
Okay.
So the client feels like they're part of the solution.
I like that.
And sometimes they even let the client think the idea was theirs.
Ooh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Like planting a seed.
Exactly.
Okay, so now let's talk about managing expectations.
Yes.
Because if you overpromise and underdeliver,
Right.
you're going to have some unhappy clients.
Absolutely.
So how do you set realistic expectations.
Well, you have to be upfront about the limitations,
Like what you can actually achieve.
within time and budget.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you should focus on the key drivers.
The 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be honest about potential challenges.
Transparency is key.
Yes.
Okay, so it's all about building trust.
Right, yeah. And credibility.
Okay. I think this is a good place to pause again.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot in this section.
We have.
From presentations to internal communications to client relationships.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But there's still more.
Yeah. So in the final part,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to get into the personal side of the McKinsey way.
Yes.
How do these consultants manage the workload,
Right.
the
The
travel,
pressure,
all of it?
it's a lot.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about how to survive.
And thrive.
Yes.
Okay. So stay tuned for part 3. Welcome back to our deep dives into the McKinsey way. It's been quite a journey so far.
It has.
We've really gone deep into like how these consultants think, how they approach problems, how they work in teams, and all that. But now I kind of want to talk about like the personal side of things.
Yeah.
Like what's it actually like to work at McKinsey?
Yeah.
What does it take to not only survive,
Right.
but to actually thrive in that environment?
Because it is a demanding job.
Oh, yeah.
Long hours, high pressure.
So how do you make it work?
Well, one thing the book really stresses is finding a mentor.
Okay.
Someone who can guide you,
Yeah.
give you advice and support.
Like a wise old sage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Someone who's been there and done that.
Okay.
They can help you navigate the office politics.
Oh, yeah. That's some
Give you feedback on your work
Mhm.
and just be there for you when you need someone to talk to.
Okay, so mentorship is key.
Yeah.
Now, what about all that travel?
Oh, the trap.
Consultants are always on the go.
It's true.
So how do you manage that?
Well, the book actually encourages you to reframe your thinking about travel.
Okay.
Instead of seeing it as a chore,
Right.
see it as an adventure. Like, use that time to explore new cities, try new foods.
Turn those layovers into mini vacations.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it.
And of course, plan ahead.
Hmm.
Pack smart.
Be nice to the flight attendants.
Always.
Yeah.
Because they can make your life so much easier.
Okay, so make the best of it.
Right.
Now, even with all that travel and those long hours,
Yeah.
you still need to have a life outside of work.
Absolutely.
So how do you do that?
Well, the book talks about setting boundaries,
Okay.
like making sure work doesn't spill over.
Into your personal time.
Exactly. So
Okay.
schedule some personal time,
Mhm.
even if it's just an hour a day.
And stick to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, having a good assistant can be a lifesaver.
Oh, yeah.
Someone who can handle all those administrative tasks.
So you can focus on the big picture.
Exactly.
Okay, so boundaries and a good assistant.
Yes.
Got it.
And then finally, I want to talk about integrity.
Okay.
Because that's a huge part of the McKinsey culture.
Yeah, I mean, they're dealing with sensitive information,
Right.
high-stakes decisions.
So they have this thing called the Wall Street Journal test.
Wall Street Journal test.
Yeah, basically it asks, would you be comfortable if your actions were on the front page of the Wall Street Journal?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a way to check your ethical compass.
I like that.
And the book also talks about maintaining objectivity,
Mm.
putting the client's interests first.
Even when it's tough.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not just about being smart.
Right.
It's about being ethical,
Yes.
doing the right thing.
Exactly.
Wow. This has been a really fascinating deep dive into the McKinsey way.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
Not just about consulting, but about problem solving, teamwork, leadership,
And then life,
Yeah.
like how to manage your time.
set boundaries,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
It's a great book.
It is, if you're interested in learning more, I highly recommend checking it out.
Definitely.
It's a great read.
And remember, the McKinsey way isn't just for consultants.
Right.
Anyone can apply these principles.
To their own work and life.
Exactly.
So take what resonates with you.
Experiment
Find what works for you.
and always strive for excellence.
Yes, well said. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the McKinsey way.
My pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.